Hey y'all, welcome back to the Conversations with Friends podcast. I'm your host Bree, and every week I'm having the necessary conversations with different friends from all walks of life. Today's episode is airing on January 30th. It starts the first week of February, and for February, I wanted to focus on love. But before we get out there and try to love on somebody else, I think it's important for you to first love yourself. So I wanted to invite someone who is an expert on the topic of self-love, and I'm going to let you introduce yourself.
Hello, Brianna. My name is Nortosia Scott, and I am a certified life coach as well as a licensed clinical social worker. Excuse me. I reside here, of course, in the city of Houston, Texas, but I'm from Louisiana originally. So, as a certified life coach, my main focus is helping individuals to find inner peace, discover their purpose, and just to develop those mindset skills that we need to have those shifts in order to make the changes that we need, like in our everyday lives. In terms of social work, I'm in the healthcare field, so I'm a medical social worker. I've been doing that a little bit over a decade now. So, on the flip side of that, I do online courses, live courses via Zoom for students that are in MSW programs. Most recently, the one I did was at Prairie View.
Okay.
So, just basically giving them the foundation of just that focus on medical social work as a profession. I know a lot of times we hear about child welfare and some of the other areas, but just kind of giving them the foundation in case they want to go into that area.
Okay. So before we get started, I wanted to start off with Icebreaker. It's just a quick game of this or that.
Okay.
And yeah, we'll just run through it, get our juices flowing. Sleeping in or going to bed early?
Definitely sleeping in.
Sunset or sunrise?
Sunset.
Okay. Sweet or salty?
Sweet.
Tea or coffee?
Tea.
Okay. Heels or flats?
Heels.
They be cute. But the older that I get, I'll be wanting to wear some
You
flats.
want the flats?
Yes. Spa or the gym?
Ooh, that's a hard one. I'm gonna pick the gym.
That's cute. I'm gonna pick the spa. I'm in need of one of those right now. Spa day. Dinner party or picnic?
Definitely picnic. Less people.
Exactly. And you know what? I've come to a place that I don't really care for dinner parties. Like going
No.
to, it's too much to be dealing with.
It
I
is.
just picnic me, please.
Yes.
Breakup via text or a phone call?
Oh, call me.
I would rather somebody to call me too, but I feel like sometimes I'm able to get my clear thoughts out on text, like to write it out.
Yeah.
But maybe I should write it out then call.
I've done it via text before,
Yeah.
even though that's not my preferred method, but it's for the same reason that you just stated.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Because I would get mad if somebody texts me and broke up with me.
I know, right?
Tears or laughter?
Laughter.
For sure. Safety or opportunity?
Ooh, opportunity.
Yeah. Would you rather change your past or know your future?
I would like to know my future.
Yeah,
Yes.
I think
It's a little scary,
it is.
but love a peek into the future.
I think I would too. I would
Yeah.
like to see if what I'm doing now works out in the end.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, so I wanted to know a little bit more about you and why did you choose social work in the beginning?
So actually, I didn't choose social work. So initially, when I went to college, I was majoring in computer information systems.
Okay.
Then after one semester, although I was good at it, I got really bored. Like when we started doing the programming and stuff, I'm like, I don't see me sitting at the computer, putting in codes and stuff like that, doing coding. So following semester, I switched to business information systems. I was bored with that as well. So I did what a typical college student who doesn't know what they want to do. I switched to general studies until I figured it out. And I happened to take a sociology class. It's like an elective. So sociology is like the study of people pretty much. So that started to pique my interest. So I started taking more and more classes. And then in talking with my advisor, I just decided to, take it on as a major. So I actually have my undergraduate degree in sociology.
Okay.
I had no idea what you could do with that in
Mm-hmm.
terms of, jobs and things. Well, according to my professor, you don't have sociologists don't have jobs, they have careers, but I just didn't see it.
Yeah.
So at that time, I had the decision to either go home, which is a small rural town,
Mm-hmm.
or either go to the military. The recruiters are all on campus. And I was with one of my line sisters at the time. She was in a master's program, and she had asked for me to ride with her to go take her finals. It was like an hour away. So I rode with her to take her finals. And then, on our commute there, I just started asking her questions. I'm like, tell me about this social work. Because just like most people, when I think social work, I think people that pull up in the white vehicle to take the kids. Little
Like
state car.
CPS coming.
Yeah, with the state seal. So she started telling me about it and what all you could do with it. And I ended up applying the following year and I got in. And actually, like the first semester, I wanted to drop out because most of the other students either had their bachelor's degree in social work. So I felt like, in participating in class and stuff, they kind of knew a lot of things that I didn't know.
Mm-hmm.
Or either they were students who were already in the field and their employers had sent them back to get a master's degree.
Yeah.
But I stuck with it, of course, and I turned out to be pretty good at it, and I love it. So,
Well,
one of those types of stories.
I know, right? That was kind of my experience, though, in
Yeah.
college. Similar, very similar.
Yeah.
I started out thinking I wanted to do accounting, and when I got there, I'm like, accounting is not just math.
And see, that's what I thought. See?
Yeah, and I had to switch it up.
Huh.
So I also wanted to know, how did you get into doing life coaching?
So life coaching, that's fairly new. I pursued life coaching certification back in 2020.
Okay.
So what made me get into that is just over the course of my life, whether it was friends, family, or colleagues, like I always had people come to me for advice about different things. Like even strangers, I would meet a stranger and they would like tell me their whole life story.
Really?
So I didn't know like what it was about me, but
Mhm.
apparently, all that time I was just like praying and praying, like, I want to know, like, what's my purpose? What my purpose? I didn't feel like I was living in my purpose,
Yeah.
but apparently I was.
Mhm.
I just didn't know how to tap into it.
Right.
So I ran across a life coaching certification program on YouTube, actually. And, I started watching this person's videos and, getting really inspired. And then I ended up joining the email list. And then got an email list to join certification. I'm like, no. I was looking at a couple of coaches, actually, a couple of well-known coaches on YouTube. And this one in particular stood out to me because, not only did I have like similar background and interest of that person, but to me, it just spoke to more of, the type of person that I wanted to work with. So I decided to enroll in certification. And of course, coaching is not a regulated field, so you don't have to be certified. But I didn't know at the time how to translate like how I got to where I was to, helping somebody else through that like informal steps. So that's why I got into certification, got that in 2020 and officially started coaching in 2021. So still fairly new.
Okay. And I read that you experienced an intense spiritual shift that prompted you to become a life coach. Could you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yes. So I grew up in the Baptist church, very religious background.
Me too.
So by the rules, by the Bible. And at the time, like I felt like I'm doing everything that I should do or what was supposed to do. Like, why am I having so many like hardships? So during that time, this is probably around 2017, 2018, I had just got out of a engagement that ended. So I had another relative that had became widowed, another relative that was two that were going through a divorce, and then another one. These are all women, of course. And then another one that was going through a really, really bad breakup. So around that time, I just discovered to focus more on the relationship that I
Mm-hmm.
have with God, like the personal relationship and how to cultivate that, as opposed to you know, getting into all of the rules and all of
Yeah.
the strict religion. And to me, that's where I found more peace, more
Yeah.
of the answers to my questions.
Mm-hmm.
You know, starting to shift in my mindset and just have more confidence
Mm-hmm.
and be able to just process and cope with things better than I had in the past.
Yeah.
And I hadn't turned back since then.
Amen. Child, I feel like that's the same thing I went through in my life because I grew up in the Baptist church.
Yeah.
My grandfather was a pastor.
Oh,
I
wow.
feel like my mama, being a preacher's kid, she raised me like I was a preacher's child. She was
Yep.
very strict on me.
Hmm.
And it was like, I mean, I was at church for everything: vacation Bible school, Sunday school,
Oh, I feel
Bible
you.
study, all of that. And
Choir rehearsal.
yeah, and my grandmother was she was the holiest of holy. I
Hmm.
felt like she was an angel herself, but she was like very strict to the Baptist rules, like as far as not wearing pants to church and different things like that. And I felt like as I was getting older, I'm like, me wearing pants to church don't mean
Right.
that I don't love the Lord. Like, what
Exactly.
does that have to do? So I took a step back from like religion
Hmm.
and really did the same thing. Started first
Yep.
focusing on my personal relationship with God, and it's
Hmm.
been amazing.
Thank
It
you.
has
That's
been
just
amazing.
hearing somebody else say it. So it's important, I tell you.
It definitely is. So I guess we can go ahead and get into the topics.
Okay.
I had some every week. I write on my story and have some
Hmm.
of the listeners to write in and give us questions or topics that's going to be based off of the subject at hand.
Okay.
So let's get this started. What are
All
some
right.
tips you can do to help your mood when you're depressed, moody, overwhelmed, stressed, or just not feeling it?
Ooh, that's a lot of them all in
I
one.
know, right?
So, you know, I would say, you know, when you are feeling good, I would say to develop, you need to kind of have a toolbox on hand. So, of things to do when you start to feel that way, whether
Hmm.
it's getting outside and getting some sunshine or taking time to meditate. If you want to like go to the spa, or, you know, you have a particular friend or someone that you can call and confide in,
Hmm.
if you want to write it out in journal. There's a plethora of things that you could do, but I would plan ahead of
Hmm.
what to do, like in talking to yourself. Like I do the same thing. I'm sorry, I keep tapping this mic.
Sorry.
You know, I kind of know, like monthly, for instance, around that time of the month for my ladies, I know that I'm gonna be like moody, like in a
Hmm.
depressed mood. So I know what type of foods to avoid, what type of foods I need to take, what type of supplements I need to take.
Hmm.
I know that I probably don't need to be home alone or watching sad movies,
Hmm.
that I need to maybe schedule some type of time with like a friend, you know, to link up and do something fun. So plan ahead of time, you know, for those things, because those are normal human emotions. It's going to happen.
Hmm.
But, you know, if it's something that's like lingering long term, I would definitely say seek therapy and, you know, coaching if needed.
Hmm. But you're saying overall just to have a toolbox so we'll be
Yeah.
equipped to go ahead and
Yeah.
combat.
So you're not caught off guard,
Right.
because when it comes to like being stressed, overwhelmed, if it's things that you don't have control over, then you
Hmm.
need to have some type of coping mechanisms in place, because that can happen at any time.
Right.
Like you can get a phone call or something could fall apart at work, and it's just like, oh my God, you scrambling, like, what do I do? So you literally have to talk yourself through it and kind of have something in place of what you're gonna do.
Yeah. That's smart.
Yeah.
How do you focus on self-care and showing your self-love while not being selfish to your significant other,
Mhm.
friends, or family?
I would say number one, so that you don't come off as self-absorbed or selfish, is boundaries. I know it's cliche, we hear it all the time, but it's still something that I'm learning to do, and I feel bad about it.
Hmm.
But especially with your significant other or friends or loved ones, just letting them know in advance. Like, you know, even for me, sometimes I'll take a whole weekend
Hmm.
where, you know, I just need to quiet my mind. I may have had a stressful week or something like that. And, you know, I may say, I personally put do not disturb on my phone from this
Hmm.
time to that time, but they know that. And iPhone kind of tells on you now.
It sure
But
does.
you know, but they know that between this time and this time, I would rather not be contacted,
Mm-hmm.
or, I'm going to sleep in today. Don't call me after this time. And, if they care about you and respect you, then they'll respect your boundaries. But yeah, I would say putting boundaries in place for sure.
For sure. What is the first step I should take towards healing from a trauma that has caused me to think less of myself?
So the first step I would say is definitely seek therapy. And I mean, that way you can explore with that therapist or coach the root cause of why you're feeling that way, and then kind of revisit that trauma
Mm-hmm.
and see how you can connect that to what's going on you currently, because it definitely has an effect on it for
Yeah.
sure. And the number one step is recognizing, okay, I have low self-worth, or I feel like I don't love myself. This could be connected to my trauma, because believe it or not, everybody doesn't put two and two together.
Yeah, for sure.
So it's most definitely related. I mean, you'd be surprised some of the things, like even from childhood, if you didn't feel like you were protected, or you didn't feel like you had love freely given to you, how that can affect you later in your adulthood. And then you could go years and years and not have any issues, and you pop up, 30s, 40s, and you're realizing that these things have taken an effect on you.
Mm-hmm.
Like with me, I didn't realize it until I was in my relationship where I was planning a wedding, that, I had these, I would say, toxic traits. And it wasn't until then that I was able to, dig deep and find out, like, this is not normal. And, this is really taking a toll on me, and I need to do something about it. But, at the time we were in couples counseling. So that uncovered a lot. But yeah, I would definitely say seek professional help. If you can't afford to seek professional help, whether it's an insurance or issue, with cost in terms of self pay, I would definitely look into free or reduced resources,
Mm-hmm.
or even, just going to the library or bookstore and getting some self help books. There's a lot of great information. We talked about YouTube earlier, lots of great information on YouTube. But I wouldn't solely depend on, self help books, podcasts, things of that nature. You definitely need to get to a professional if you can, but just something to do if you can.
Yeah, if you can, and that's good to know.
Yes.
Because I didn't know that they had like reduced services. I guess reduced cost services
Hmm.
that you can
Like
tap
income
into.
based.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
That's good to
And
know.
your employer too. Your employer, a lot of employers, if you work a 9 to 5, they
Mm-hmm.
offer, like, you may get 4 or 5 free counseling sessions for the year.
That's
So I
nice.
would take advantage of that as well.
That's what I miss about working for somebody's employer. Those benefits.
Benefits, yes, ma'am.
Okay, and how can I forgive myself for allowing others to treat me less than what I deserve?
Just do it. I mean, I feel like sometimes the hardest person to forgive is yourself.
Yeah.
But, we as humans, we're here for a short time, not a long time. We are going to make mistakes. We're going to go through life changes.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to eventually look back at situations like, I can't believe I allowed this person to treat me like this, or I
Mm-hmm.
can't believe I tolerated XYZ. But as you grow to, love yourself, self love in itself is how you regard yourself, like you're regarding yourself highly.
Mm-hmm.
So the more that you start to regard yourself in a high manner, there's just certain things that you will or will not tolerate, not even from yourself. And part of not tolerating that from yourself is to forgive yourself
Yeah.
and just recognize, okay, I've sat on it, I've, kind of processed it. I've beat myself up enough. Now it's time to move on. Like, you're not the only one. So you have to live with you.
Right.
So constantly revisiting and blaming yourself, it doesn't help at all. Like, it doesn't help your progress at all.
Yeah. For sure. I know that for sure. I went through a period this year where I had to really I was really trying to get back to a peaceful place. And
Yeah.
so I had to really, like, every day wake up and start my day with like gratitude and
Mm-hmm.
with like positive affirmations so
Yes.
that I can feel good about myself. And then the rest of the day
Mm-hmm.
will flow in that direction.
Yeah.
And then every day, once it started becoming a habit, every day you just start to feel better. And
Yes.
yeah.
And think about like a lot of times when we were talking about self love and how we deal with ourselves, think about how you deal with others.
Mm-hmm.
Because a lot of times, if a person lacks self love, then more than likely they are sacrificing or giving their self more to others than themselves.
Exactly.
So if you say a certain thing to yourself, would you tell your friend that? Like if your friend asks you for advice, would you
Mm-hmm.
talk to your friend the way you talk to yourself? That's a way to think of it.
Yeah.
If you wouldn't say that to your friend or a loved one, then why would you talk to yourself that way?
That's true. Because who is going to treat us better than ourselves but ourselves?
Right.
With self care being so trendy and mainstream, do you
Mhm.
think that it has a setup of unrealistic expectations for consistent maintenance? Like, is it a good or bad thing with all the influencers being so
Mhm.
popular?
I don't think it's a bad thing, but I think it's important to know that, self love and self care kind of go hand in hand, but self care is not just like going to the spa and getting your nails done and all of
Mm-hmm.
that stuff. Like, self care is literal maintenance, like things that it could be deciding, to switch up what type of music you listen to, or what type of movies or entertainment that you consume that doesn't make you feel good.
Mm-hmm.
It could be something that you could a daily habit that you can change, whether it's cold turkey or it's something that may take time.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think it's a negative, but it's more than what a lot of influencers show.
Yeah.
Like, it's not always the pretty stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Self care can simply be, declining an invitation to an event because it may make you feel anxious, or
For
you're
sure.
just not feeling up for it that day, or what have you. Like, that's totally okay.
Mm-hmm.
It's a plethora of things, but I definitely get what you're saying because I see it
Yeah, it's like social media.
with the
Yeah,
influencers.
it could sometimes create pressures on people to just be
Yes.
so perfect. But just like you said, they don't show everything. And
No.
a lot of times people are just showing you what they want you to see.
Exactly.
And they're not really living their life. And so
Exactly.
you have to think about how everybody is living on a day-to-day basis. That's not real life.
Right.
Not real life.
And a lot of that stuff is not always feasible. I mean, it's literally self care. I mean, it could be the simplest thing. Like I said, curling up with your blanket, watching Netflix if that's what makes you feel better after a
Right.
long day.
Right.
Having your coffee, your tea, or what have you. So whatever works for you is self care. So
Right. So I think we just have time for one more topic.
okay.
Let's see. I just went through a terrible breakup with someone who I thought I would spend the rest of my life with. Now I'm alone, heartbroken, and don't know how to begin to start over with
Mhm.
loving again.
Whew. That's a question.
It sounds like just a topic. I don't know what the question is. Maybe how do they start over?
So yeah, breakups are difficult. Ending relationships with anybody are difficult. Like, you are definitely going to go through a grieving process.
Mm-hmm.
I would say don't try to avoid it. Go through the grieving process.
Feel it.
Yeah, we're not machines.
Mm-hmm.
We're not androids. So really feel it, but try not to sit in it too long.
Mm-hmm.
So, that timeline is different for everybody. Sometimes, you wake up one day and, you kind of realize, okay, it's time to move on. For some people, that's 6 weeks, 90 days. For some, it's a year. I know I usually take longer. Also, just remember, I know they mentioned that they were going to spend their life with that person, but just remember we all have particular seasons.
Mm-hmm.
Things more than likely didn't work out for a reason, and focus more so on yourself and what you can do different. If there's anything in that situation where you feel like you were the cause, or just focus on what you can do different in order for the next situation that comes up. Um, but yeah,
And
breakup
know
is
that it
hard.
could, it will be, can be, and will be another situation
There will be
that will
another
come up.
situation. You're not probably not ready to accept that yet, but
Hmm.
as you go through that grieving process, it'll come.
Yeah, it ain't the end all be all.
But this is a perfect time to really focus on you, though, for sure.
Hmm.
And you'll have your moments, but don't feel bad about it. Like, that's normal. You have your moments where you might want to go back. You have your moments where you feel like there's nobody else. Like, those are all, I would say, appropriate grievances when you're going through that process, because it's
Yeah,
very difficult.
yeah. And before we close out this segment, I just want to ask you, what does self love actually mean?
So self love, like I said, it is really like having a high regard for yourself. So I'll compare it to like esteem. We talk a lot about self esteem.
Hmm.
Self esteem is how you regard yourself. So that's why they say it could be high or it could be low.
Yeah.
Self love for me is like that action that you take when you hold yourself in high regard and you're
Hmm.
showing yourself that love.
Okay.
Whether you are taking care of yourself physically, mentally, psychologically, you're giving your body what it needs, you're giving your mind what it needs, you're giving your heart what it needs, and you're doing it unselfishly. You're not sacrificing yourself for others and neglecting yourself. In a nutshell, that's how I define self love.
That's good.
Put you
That's
first.
good.
What
Put
that
you
mean,
first,
Faye?
boo. I gotta put me first, Lucius.
Yes, that's what I was looking for.
You know what? I saw something on your story that I had saved in my
Oh Lord, what
phone
did I
because
post?
I thought it was really nice. It
What
says,
did I
"You are the
post?
first example of what loving you looks like. Set the example."
Yes.
Do that. That's a reminder.
Yes, absolutely.
All right. So we gonna close this thing out.
Okay.
But I wanted to ask you before we wrap, who is your inspiration?
My inspiration is the everyday person who has been through hell and back, has experienced some type of hardships, and they, pick up the pieces, they do what they need to do to heal from it, and they move on with life, and they, in so many words, like they reinvent themselves.
Mm-hmm.
And you never know that until they share it with you. That's
Yeah.
my inspiration, that everyday person. And I want to be that person in terms of who I inspire, because I want you, for those people who feel like they're hopeless,
Mm-hmm.
I want to be able to inspire those people that, okay, she was able to do it, so I can do it too. Like, it doesn't feel like it in this moment, but there's light at the end of the tunnel.
For sure. And that goes right into the second question I was gonna ask you. Who do you seek to inspire? But you kind of answered it right there.
Yes. And, for sure, women, young women, that's the demographic that I focus on. I care about men too, but,
We ain't leaving y'all out.
everybody. I actually do get a lot of feedback from men about, being inspired by things. I'm like, well, that's interesting. I put all the pink and stuff in my marketing,
It's real cute.
but it feels good.
Yeah, that is reaching not just women
That
but
is
men as
reaching,
well.
yeah.
But I'm the same way when I see other, especially women, because I'm a woman. When I see other
Yeah.
women who have been through things and see where they are and them just shining, that really gives me the fuel and the fire to keep going in life myself.
Yes.
Because it could be hard sometimes, but when you see the next person, and then that's another thing, you can have some people that have went through things that are worse than what I have gone
Yeah.
through or are presently going through, and I'm like, okay, if they can pull it all together, then girl, pick yourself up.
Exactly.
What's one thing that you can do to get closer to that place of impact that you're seeking?
One thing I could do is probably be a little bit more visible. Like I'm out there. I have my website and things like that, and I get to do stuff like this. Thank you for having me again.
You're welcome.
I love it. But I could be a little bit more visible. I know we're in the world of social media and everybody wants to see you and touch you and feel you. And then also, I know, like, as leaders, vulnerability is big too. So a lot of times we like to show like all the good stuff and what we call the highlight reel.
Yeah.
But I think it's good for people to see you also in your vulnerable state. Not saying tell all of your business, but show people, let people know when things aren't going so well, and you run into hiccups too. And just because you're a professional or what have you, or even in the helping field, so to speak, that you go through things too. You have your days too. So that's a way that I want to try to get closer, just being a little bit more visible and transparent. But sometimes I hate social media, but I'm
Girl,
trying.
I can't stand it. And
Really?
I really
Oh
don't
my
really like
gosh.
social media like that.
That's
But I
shocking.
know that with what I do, I have to put myself out there. But that's something that I'm trying to
Yeah.
work on
Be
too.
more
Trying to
visible.
be more visible,
Hmm.
be comfortable with putting myself out there and
Hmm.
engaging with people. And like what
Yeah.
you said, showing all the different sides, people I feel like more so relate to that
Yeah.
versus just seeing just a pretty package bow. And then
Exactly.
you can create more of a community when
Exactly.
share more of yourself like that.
And reaching out and touching, because something about that pandemic, I feel like I was already introverted, but it's something about the pandemic and a lockdown that made me even more introverted. So this year I'm trying to like really get out
Out there.
and meet people face to face and
Yeah.
stuff. So so far I'm doing good. Give
That's
myself about a
good.
B plus for January. We'll
Come
see what happens
on.
next
Come
month.
on. You can only go up. You can only go up. Well, we're gonna do this. I'm gonna do it too.
Okay.
We're gonna put ourselves out there.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, so that's it for this week's episode of Conversations with Friends. I want you guys to tune in every Monday at 7 a.m. On YouTube, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Apple, Google, all the platforms. Check us out. And until next time, before we go, would you
Yes.
like to let the people know anything that you have coming up or where to contact you?
So you can contact me website nortosiascott.com. That's NORTOSIASCOTT.com. Same thing on Instagram at Nortosia Scott, and email contact at nortosiascott.com, and that's where you can find me.
And I'll put all of that down in the description box below. But until next time, we out. Peace.